I am tired, I am worn. Through the storm and through the night, lead me on and help me find. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me on.
Let us again pray. May the words of my mouth, O Lord, and the meditations of all of our hearts be acceptable and pleasing to you, O Lord, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. The older I get, the longer that I live, the more that I like folding laundry. I mean, think about it. To square off against that pile of chaos, to then out of it fold order and organization and a sense of control. Yes, says Gare, yes. Because I don't have control, but I want to pretend that maybe I do, one sock after the next. No control. As I sat with one of you this week and looked at the pictures from your friend's birthday party 3 weeks ago, she turned 40, and 3 days later, her life was taken from her. Why? Where are you, God, when life hurts? Hollywood producer Terrence Malick wrote some incredible words about Job when he produced the film Tree of Life in 2011. Hear these words. Job imagined he might build his nest on high, that the integrity of his behavior would protect him against misfortune. But no, misfortune befalls the good as well. We can't protect ourselves against it. We can't protect our children. We can't say to ourselves, even if I'm not happy, I'm going to make sure they are happy. We vanish as a cloud. We wither as the autumn grass, and like a tree are rooted up. We must find that which is greater than fortune or fate. Nothing can bring us peace but that. We must find something greater than fortune or fate. Which is what? We ask. Which is what? Cries Job from the pit of desperation and despair and destruction. And finally, after 37 long chapters in the book of Job, God responds. Where were you when I laid the earth's foundations? Tell me if you know. Who set its measurements? Surely you know. Who stretched a measuring tape on it? On what were its footings sunk? Who laid its cornerstone while the morning stars sang in unison and the divine beings shouted? Now, Job has longed for this kind of question and answer, this Q&A with God, but this is different than he had hoped for. God's first question is a simple one. Were you there, Job, when I created the universe? And of course, Job's answer is that no, he was not. And then God goes off and ticks off this list of the grandeur of creation. Can Job do what God does? Can Job take care of the creatures the way that God cares for them? And no, he cannot do any of it. God's questions seem a bit sarcastic, but as they continue, Job is invited, and we are invited to enlarge our perspective. You see, this experience of God overall is not about clarification. It is about astonishment yet again. For the images and creatures described in the divine speeches grip our imagination and introduce us to a world much, much bigger than ourselves. Who enclosed the sea behind doors when it burst forth from the womb? When I made the clouds its garment, the dense clouds its wrap. In your lifetime, Heather, have you commanded this morning? In our lifetime, Duke Memorial, informed the dawn of its place? This past summer, NASA did a flyby of Pluto, and as soon as those images that they took got back to Earth, a scientist, a physicist, was overheard exclaiming, "It's just blowing my mind." Now, that sounds more like the words that might come from a teenage boy in reaction to a superhero movie, right? But no, a scientist, a physicist, these ice mountains on Pluto, it's just blowing my mind. Who could have imagined such a toy store? He said. A toy store of God's creation. Rabbis have long ago noted that when God brags of God's handiwork, in Job, of all the animals that God offers as evidence of divine creation, the lion, the raven, the mountain goat, the wild donkey, the ox, the ostrich, it goes on and on, none of them is of any earthly use to humanity. Humanity is only a small part. God does not even include us on the list. Have you noticed that? This divine speech, nowhere does he mention the beauty, the creation of humanity itself. And yet, to whom does God speak? To Job. To us. He speaks about the creatures to us. For we are the ones to whom God has spoken and entered a promise of covenant, love, and yes. And the implication is that regardless of whether or not Job feels God's presence, God is there. And God is God. Job is not. And God is God. Heather is not. And God is God. We are not. And that frustrates me sometimes because I want to figure it out. I want to figure out the mysteries of God. And yet, what is most important? I think that this book asks us to ask that question. What is most important? The answers to our why questions or a relationship built on trust with God? For even if Job knew the answers to all of his questions, would he be satisfied with an intellectual solution? Job's deeper need is to know that God has not abandoned him. 2 weeks ago, Pete and I celebrated our anniversary in Nags Head, where my husband is from. And when we got to the ocean front, when we got to the dune line, there to greet us was Hurricane Joaquin. So any guesses as to how fast that wind was blowing that day? $90, $20? Between 35 and 40. It takes 75-mile-an-hour winds, right, to get to a Category 1. And at Joaquin's core off the coast that day, there were winds well over 100. And as I stood on that dune line, and felt the tug and the push back, when I felt the power of that storm that was well beyond my control, I couldn't quite wrap my mind around what 100-mile-an-hour winds would feel like, the damage that could do to the coastline, the damage that could do to me. And I stood there holding this tension between fear and intimidation with this sense of awe and excitement that I got to stand there at all. Is it helpful for me to understand how minuscule I am in the face of a hurricane? Is it a comfort to Job to know that his concerns are infinitely minor in the grand scheme of things? I mean, will Job get caught up in the wonder of creation and forget his sores that are all over his body? Will we trust the God of all being even as we sit in tragedy and pain? We stand at the edge of a hurricane-ripped ocean and we yell, "Why?" And the storm continues. We climb to the highest peak and we shake our fist and the mountain stands firm. See, this is how God reaches in and gets a foothold in the midst of our grieving, in the midst of our asking why, through nature's indifference to our cries of why. I love the way the poet Mary Oliver says it. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the wild geese high in the clean blue air are heading home again. She was asked this question. Does this indifference of the ordered creation make a difference? To which she said, you know what? Yes, whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination. Images for our imagination from the book of Job, storehouses of snow, light divided up from night, east winds scattering, channels of downpours upon dry wastelands, images of wonder lifting us from our accustomed day at the office, lifting us from our accustomed drive to the grocery store, lifting us from our accustomed folding of the laundry, lifting us in amazement that any of it is even here at all. When God finally invites Job to respond, Job says, I've heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eyes see you. My eyes see you, God. This is your creation. My eyes see you, God. This is your world. It is not mine. It is not ours. An important word to hear. Presbyterian minister William Sloane Coffin, when he was an undergrad at Yale, 3 of his closest friends were killed in a car accident when the driver fell asleep. And at the funeral, he said in outrage at the piety of the priest who read from the book of Job these words, "The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." Coffin was so upset that he actually entertained the idea of tripping the priest as he came up the aisle. But right as he went to stick his foot out, a small voice in his head said to him, "What part of the phrase, Coffin, are you objecting to?" He thought it was the second part, God takes away. But then he realized that it was the first. God gave. It hit me hard that it was not my world, that at best we were all guests, And the Lord gave was a statement against which all the spears of human pride have to be hurled and shattered. We vanish as a cloud. We wither as the autumn grass, and like a tree are rooted up. We must find that which is greater than fortune or fate. Nothing can bring us peace but that. Where are you, God, when life hurts? Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth?
Try to hold on to this world with everything I have, but I feel the weight of what it brings and the hurt that tries to grab, the many trials that seem to never end. His word declares this truth: we will enter in this rest with the wonders anew. But I hold on to this hope and the promise that he brings, that there will be a place with no more suffering. There will be a day with no more tears, no more fear. There will be a day when the burdens of this place will be no more. We'll see Jesus face to face. But until that day, we'll hold on to you always. I know the journey seems so long. You feel you're walking on your own, but there has never been a step where you walked out all alone. Troubled soul, don't lose your heart, 'cause joy and peace he brings, and the beauty that's in store outweighs the hurt of life's sting. But I hold on to this hope and the promise that he brings. There will be a place with no more suffering. There will be a day with no more tears, no more pain, no more fears. There will be a day when the burdens of this place will be no more. We'll see Jesus face to face, and there will be a day with no more tears and no more pain and no more fears. There will be a day when the burdens of this place will be no more. We'll see Jesus face to face. But until that day, we'll hold on to you always. I'd like to invite you to sing this next part with me. Say, it is well with my soul. Yeah, you know it. It is well with my soul. It is well with that day, the burdens of this place will be no more. We'll see Jesus face to face.